yelling over the countdown. Welcome to DNF. I am Spencer Hall. That is Jessica Smetana. This is where we discuss Formula One and what happened in the race. Usually, Jessica, what do we like to do? We like to say, hey, this person did great. Hey, this was generally sort of the impact on how things were going to go as to the F1 world at large based on the results of the race. You know, single-out drivers, have a little fun. I would like to start by yelling.
Ah!
Ah! Have you ever... that scream that we're doing, if you didn't watch the race, and good lord, you need to go back and at least watch that part, is Charles Leclerc, who, while in the lead, a good lead, with what was arguably the fastest car on the track, piled it into the barrier, and then did some heavy breathing, talked about the throttle, and after a pause, let out a scream that our producer, Douglas Reyes-Cerrone, said turned him into the Joker. That was the moment that he turned into the Joker. Leclerc in first place, heading towards what could have been a comfortable win, I think, at this track.
Well, we can debate that because Ferrari decided to appear. It appeared they were going for a one pit strategy in the race. So what is so devastating about this is that for the first 10 laps or so, Leclerc was able to stave off Max Verstappen's attempts to overtake him. And finally, Verstappen and Red Bull just decided, all right, we're going to pit. We're going to do this differently. And so Leclerc, like you said, was comfortably in the lead. We don't know exactly how their strategy would have played out. Probably not well. Some other horrible catastrophic event probably would have occurred had it because it is Ferrari. But we didn't get to see that other horrible thing happen. We just got to see this horrible thing happen, which was, as you said, Leclerc careening off the track into the barriers.
Yeah, third time he's retired from the lead. By the way, this is ongoing because everyone's still talking about this on TV. Mattia Binotto, the team boss, who, contrary to what everyone would believe, not Italian, he's Swiss. He's Swiss. He just happens to be the most Italian man ever born, even though he is from Switzerland, said. But, you know, once again, we proved that we have a fast car.
Oh, well, can I just...
Can I just... We know you have a fast car! We know you're fast! Ferrari, this is not about affirmations! You don't need motivational posters! Okay? I've seen the espresso machine, and we're going to talk about the espresso guy, Jessica, because we have a theory about him. But we've seen what you have. You are the most accomplished race team in F1 history. Like, you have a good argument for that. You have all of the money you need. You have an Italian-looking dude with massive hair and designer's glasses running your team. That's all I need for a championship at Ferrari. And yet, that wasn't even, like, we're talking about a wreck with Charles Leclerc, which we could have seen coming. In fact, Jessica and I in the text were like, yeah, you know, give Ferrari a minute. We'll see what happens.
Give him a minute. Yeah. Spencer, I actually texted you early on because Verstappen looked so fast on Leclerc's heels. And I said, this looks like it's going to be a Red Bull 1 and 2. Like, Ferrari's going to do something to screw this up. Verstappen, either by sheer force of will or by just being the recipient again of his opponent having terrible strategists and terribly unreliable cars, Red Bull's going to win this thing. And I was wrong, but not completely, because Ferrari did blow this thing in multiple ways, like not just the Leclerc crash, which I think we maybe need to decide if we're blaming, like, Leclerc blames himself for that, right? But immediately after the crash, he said that he was having throttle issues, which he was having in the previous race in Austria, where he had to, like, lift up the throttle and then push it back down with
manually, like with his toe, like pull it off the floor. Yeah.
Right. So is he just trying to be the bigger person? Is he trying to PR spin it? Did he actually just make a mistake? Because, you know, he can make mistakes. He's human. Drivers make mistakes all the time in high pressure situations like that. That's why Max Verstappen is so good, because he doesn't make those mistakes and he has a fast car. So are we blaming Ferrari for Leclerc's issue, or is it just, even if it is Leclerc's fault, do we still blame Ferrari because it's a Ferrari?
I think we're at a unique point in the blame game where even if we blamed Leclerc, you could, and you said this earlier and it really haunted me, we could just say, well, they would have screwed something else up down the line, in addition to all of the other mistakes that the race team made. Because they did. Within the span of about, 2 minutes, Leclerc goes off the road. We're not sure why. Nico Rosberg on the post-race show had an interesting comment where he said, we don't know if that was a freak gust of wind, which can happen. Like if a gust of wind, and not an insanely strong one, comes up behind a car, it can take away 20% of your downforce.
It happened in Spain to Carlos Sainz and Max Verstappen at one point.
That's right. That's right. And that could upset your car. And if we're talking 20% of your downforce, you go, well, that's not much on my car. No, but on an F1 car, it's catastrophic, especially if you're going 170 miles an hour. But we don't really know. But even if we didn't know, keep going. What happened immediately after that to Ferrari? All right, with a podium spot on the line and Carlos Sainz running a good race, okay, heading for what could have been, a third, maybe even a second if things break right. What happened to him? He's in the pits. First of all, the pit strategy is up for debate here. I'm happy to debate that. Okay, maybe we're now in the question of what were they trying to accomplish, and with Ferrari, that answer is so screwed up. There is no way of knowing. They say, well, we were going for a two-stop. Sure, that's what you say now. That may have been true. But either way, when you came out of the pits, you made an unsafe exit, thus causing a penalty for Sainz to move him back. Carlos Sainz ran 2 races today, easily, coming from the back on multiple occasions. And that was a lap, like a lap or 2 of action. And they made 2 egregious mistakes as a team.
And it wasn't their last mistake of the race. So like you said, Carlos Sainz has an unsafe start out of the pit lane. He cuts off the Williams car. He gets a 5-second penalty, which means that he can either, if he pits again, wait 5 seconds during his pit stop and come back on the track, or finish the race without pitting, and then they tack on 5 seconds to his race time. So wherever he falls in the standings, that's where he finishes. So if he finishes third, but he's 5 seconds back behind, the car behind him is less than 5 seconds behind, then that car would finish ahead of him. So you could do it either way, as far as I understand. So Ferrari decided not to do that and to completely, I don't even know. They called him into the pit lane mid battle with Sergio Perez and cost him probably at least one place in a race in which they already lost all of their points from Leclerc DNFing. So points are vital for Ferrari at this point, and they just decided pit. And then he said, "No, I'm literally racing right now. Can you call back later? I am in the middle of something." It boggles my mind. Were they not watching the screen? Were they just looking at the little computer monitors with the track times and the tire temperatures and saying, come in, it's a good time? And he was like, it's never a good time with you guys. This is like the 14th time this has happened this season. Why am I even still listening to you?
Yeah, at this point they should no sell them. Just no, I'm not. You're not in control of this car. I'm going to keep it out. And no one would blame them. It is very difficult in a sport that is 99.999% dependent on the guys behind the wall. And it is. Like, when you want to talk about what a driver means to a team, and this goes in racing across the board, I believe. This is true in NASCAR, it's true in IndyCar. Everything that happens before that dude gets on the track, all right, is most of the race. And then you put a driver in there, and the driver is the crucial margin that makes the difference. That's it, okay? They're not the bulk of the output. They're not the bulk of the value of performance. But that guy or gal makes a difference, right? Just a slight bit of difference that's going to make your team a championship team or an also-ran. In this case, in Ferrari's case, they have a dude who could be world champion. Leclerc could be world champion easily. Like, I have no doubt he's right there. Leclerc himself said this in his post-race remarks when he said, if I see 32 points as the final margin, I'll know where they came from, because he's blaming himself and says he made those mistakes. Leclerc's made mistakes. That's undoubtable. That's like beyond doubt. But this team is going to cost him a championship. I feel real certain of saying that because they all but guaranteed Max Verstappen won today. If Verstappen continues to be this consistent, and there is no reason to believe with the shark-like coldness that he is executing with at this point, I do not see any reason to think that he is not already the champion and that we are going to get, with some decent runs, another Red Bull driver championship. But Ferrari is damaging their driver's performance. If he had gone into the pits, it's my long way of saying this, if Leclerc had come into the pits and just started slapping people, wouldn't blame him. If Sainz had done the same, I would not blame them. Not one bit. What do I have to do to get you guys to get your heads out of your asses? That was, Rosberg, who I think does a great job on F1's broadcast, Rosberg was like, they are all looking at their stopwatches. What I think, if you go like organizationally, what I go like, what's wrong with this team? They have their heads up their asses in the most academic way possible. I think they are engineers above all else. So they're looking at the times and they're not actually thinking about how to run a race. The jokes are true. This is not a joke. We are not telling a joke when we say, Ferrari, do you know that you are running a race? A lot of the times they are so focused on performance and they are so focused on the numbers that they forget the actual strategy. That started as a joke. I do not think it's inaccurate, though.
This is like when you're watching an NFL game and your friends are like, "Oh, I could call a play. I could be an offensive coordinator. I played Madden." We talk about this on the Dan Le Batard show all the time. Everyone thinks they could be an offensive coordinator at some point in their life because they've watched football and they're like, "Oh, I would just call a run play. I would just call a pass play here. It's so easy. QB sneak." But this is actually a situation in which I think you could just pick a guy off the street who watches F1, put them in Ferrari, say, tell us what our tire strategy is today. And they'd probably do, at least at worst, about the same as what Ferrari already has.
I don't know. They'd at least make different mistakes because it feels like Ferrari keeps making the same mistakes. If you look at different points in the race, if you're Red Bull or you're Mercedes, you know when they're going to melt down. You know. If it comes down to, well, are they going to pit or aren't they going to pit? They're going to get it wrong at a crucial point. That is a safe wager at this point. If you said, well, we're cruising second, but Leclerc or Sainz will probably go off the road and we'll game a spot. That is also a safe bet based on the lack of reliability for the Ferrari race frame this season. It's bonkers. It's absolutely bonkers. It's a sure bet that you don't have to try. You could just hold tight and they'll give you a spot.
I also have to take some credit away from Red Bull for not just waiting to pit Verstappen until the safety car, or until Leclerc was out, basically. You guys knew that something was going to happen, right? We all saw it coming. But I think what's disappointing is that Ferrari has made so many strides in terms of their straight lane speed and catching up to the Red Bull, where it seems like they are legitimately, their car is very, very good. It is probably, you could make an argument for it being the best car, but at least it is neck and neck with the Red Bull right now, just in terms of the speed, which Red Bull had cornered at the beginning of the season. Red Bull was so much faster than the Ferrari, but their reliability issues, whether it's just the decision making or the car itself, has been abysmal. So I'm going to go over now all the DNFs from the season for Ferrari and what caused them, because it's staggering when you lay it all out. So first off, Australia, Carlos's car, it was blamed on a steering wheel problem. Then Carlos again at Emilia-Romagna, and that was a racing incident with Daniel Ricciardo, probably a case of bad luck. And then Spain, Leclerc with the power unit. Azerbaijan, both Ferraris out, power unit for Charles and a hydraulic problem for Carlos Sainz. Austria, the power unit issue for Carlos Sainz, which caused the grid penalty for this race, which is why he had to start all the way in the back. So you can't look at that as a neutral point. The fact that he's starting all the way in the back and had to work his way from 19th to 5th and probably could have gotten 4th is because of the Ferrari's issues. It's not through any fault of his own. He performed very well in qualifying and helping his teammate yesterday. And then again today, Leclerc crashes. They're almost in Austria was a double DNF again, because the last 5 laps, Charles Leclerc was pulling his throttle up with his big toe. So then again today in France, Charles Leclerc is out. We still don't exactly know if he takes full responsibility or if it was a combination issue, or maybe neither, maybe a gust of wind, who knows. But not looking so good for Ferrari. And that is why you cannot give them the benefit of the doubt when Leclerc is careening off track and losing a race that it looked like he had every opportunity to win early on.
Do you know you're running a race? We've been saying this for like a month straight. Does Ferrari know they're actually running a race? Jessica, I don't think they do. I really don't. It just doesn't feel like they've done so much to gain in the engineering department. And they've done so much that, in fact, Red Bull's had to react a little bit to their improvements. It's not like there's people in the garage not doing their damnedest to make what is already a fast car the fastest car on the track. And then it gets to the point where you got to plate it up and serve it, and it's awful. It's absolutely awful. It's like somebody taking the most beautiful piece of Kobe beef and cooking it perfectly, and then they put it on the tray and they put it on the plate and it gets in the window, and then somebody just takes some of that pink sauce from the internet this week and just puts it all over the top, right? Just somebody puts Miracle Whip all over this gorgeous piece of beef, and or serves it upside down on the table, right? Like I don't get it. I do not know. There's an organizational misfire happening there that's damaging both the drivers and their overall team's potential.
What would the Italians say if they saw the TikTok pink sauce that has come out of America in the last week?
It would be a lot like that clip of the English carbonara, the British carbonara. They're like, ah, no.
Maybe Ferrari is putting pink sauce in the engines. Maybe that is what their critical error was.
We've decided not to run on the pink sauce. It's not working for us. We're gonna go back to our standard fuel. I don't know. Like it goes past humor for me. It's just
it's still funny.
It is funny, but like God, I feel so bad. As bad as you can feel for a multi-millionaire monegasque driver whose life is pretty great most of the time. You could tell it means something to him because you don't make that like. When have you ever made that noise in your life,
Never.
Jessica?
Literally never, ever. I don't think I've ever felt that much anguish about anything. Have you ever had a situation in which you just like absolutely lost it and just screamed like that?
Yeah, but I have kids, so I don't count.
Okay,
yeah. Like that might be be trying to get a 4-year-old to put their shoes on in the morning. It really might.
It's a really, really good
But in the realm of the rational, like in daily life, never. I've never made that noise. Ever. Our producer, Doug, points out that this stat is still holding up. Verstappen's now won more races from Leclerc poles than Leclerc has won from Leclerc poles. That was from the Azerbaijan GP, but it is still true.
So the thing that also is disappointing is that Ferrari had a pretty good qualifying strategy yesterday. Like so Carlos Sainz didn't really have to do anything in qualifying because he had the penalty, but they still brought him out there and tried getting him to give a little bit of a tow to Leclerc. And they didn't really end up needing it. Leclerc was faster and his qualifying lap was fast enough without Carlos Sainz, it seems like, but they were doing things that seemed like they were being thoughtful and proactive in their strategy.
They were doing things that were like they were on the verge, and I guess this is when we should have known things were going to go wrong. They've improved, and they look like good things were going to happen. Should have bet against it. Should have just riversided it right over here. Just, hey, things are looking up for Ferrari. Bail. Ditch immediately. And to do this too, like when the door was open. When the door was open for them to really not only be competitive with Red Bull, but put up some serious points on them, it's agony, man.
So next weekend is the Hungarian Grand Prix, and then there's like a 3-week break. It's like the summer break. I guess they call it holiday in the UK, whatever you want to call it. And the teams usually come back. Like the drivers all go on like little mini vacations and get to spend their millions of dollars on yachts and things like that. It's very, very precious if you follow them on social media. But I predict that Charles Leclerc will probably come back from his vacation with some sort of chest tattoo. And it'll be very, very scary, Spencer. I'm wondering if he's gonna have like the Brock Osweiler like no regrets tattoo on his chest or something like that. But like he has become the Joker now. His persona will change. You will see a darkness in him moving forward that we never saw before. And I don't know what kind of person we will see after the break ends, but it will be a much darker Joker like type.
Yeah, I really hope this doesn't happen. I hope he doesn't come back listening to a lot of mumble rap and reading Jordan Peterson. Like, I hope he doesn't get a face tat. I hope he's not like, yeah, I've been eating a lot of organ meats, right? Like, I do not want the full angry Joe Roganing of Charles Leclerc to happen, but it might. It really might. Like, I heard that man.
Who can blame him?
Something snapped in that man, right? Like, if he comes back and he's got like a terrifying goth girlfriend, right? And he's like dressed in all black, like, and bad things are happening. Yeah, whatever you want out of Charles Leclerc, you're probably going to get, because that man's going through some stuff, right? Whereas I think Carlos Sainz is just like, man, I'm really happy. I'm rich. I'm rich and paid. It's pretty awesome.
I don't know. I think Carlos is probably feeling pretty frustrated because this is now like the third race, at least the third race in the last 2 months where he has been on top of his shit and they have let him down spectacularly. Because
he is peaking right now, right? Like, personally, he is peaking.
I mean, him winning the battle with Perez, and then also like Perez's tires after that were shot. So he essentially helped George Russell get on podium, I think you could say. But he was in the middle of this hard-fought battle, and we know the radio messages are slightly delayed, but Ferrari was calling him into pit while he was like, I'm doing a thing. Can you please just back off? I like Lance Stroll's message today where he was like, stop talking to me, leave me alone.
Carlos had the Kimi Räikkönen like conversationalist of the day award goes to Lance Stroll.
Leave me alone. And Carlos was like, I don't understand what we're doing. And he was racing faster than Perez and Russell, and they called him in. After he came back out, he was in ninth, I think. He ended up working his way back up to fifth because he was easily the fastest car out there of the rest of the cars. And I don't know what they were doing either, Carlos. I wish I could help you, sir, but I can't imagine that he is anything but excruciatingly frustrated with his team after today.
I mean, yes, I just think maybe he's better at hiding it, whereas Charles Leclerc has no shell. I feel like all of his emotions are pretty much right here all the time for the viewer to see. Whereas, Carlos is a little more of a smooth operator. I know you're miserable, but you still look so damn handsome and smooth while doing it, man. Congratulations. I did want to go ahead also. We can't just spend the entire time talking about Ferrari because honestly, I'll just leave mad. It'll just ruin my day. Do we have anything I want to talk about something positive.
Oh, can we talk about Lewis Hamilton?
I would love to talk about Lewis Hamilton.
Spencer, Lewis Hamilton had his best finish of the entire season today. He finished in second place. This was his 300th Grand Prix start. And Mercedes somehow, I guess not really somehow, considering that the two cars faster than Mercedes, the Red Bull and the Ferraris, one of them, it's 50-50 if they're going to finish a race now, I think.
Yeah.
But, Mercedes at 2-3 on the podium behind Max Verstappen. I think it's a pretty good day for the lads at Mercedes.
I'm glad you said the word lads, Jessica, because, yeah, it is extremely impressive that Lewis Hamilton had his highest finish of the year. That I think afterwards, if you listen to them on the radio, genuine relief between everybody, all parties, between Toto, between Lewis, and between George. I think they were thrilled with the way they ran. They did a lot of things earlier this week, messing with various spoilers, still tweaking the car, still figuring things out. It's wild, and I think they feel this kind of relief that they are still very much a work in progress after missing completely on what the car was going to look like and feel like coming out of this offseason and into the actual F1 schedule. That they're still a work in progress, but they were improving. Like, if you wanted to go, hey, who is the most improved team on the track week to week? Insane to say this, but Mercedes, in terms of consistency. That's the idea that we are now moving into August and they are going to be one of the most consistent teams on the track after a disastrous start. There's a lot of people putting a lot of sweat equity in. But you know what? Lewis, I've come to expect these things, right? I've come to expect greatness from Lewis.
Right.
The fact that he's struggling
a
like
seven-time
this,
champion, Spencer.
he is. But I wanted to talk about lads, and maybe the best lad of all. That's correct. Because Mr. Consistency, again, defending the jeweled isle, defending the scepter, standing in front of the queen as the forces of evil wish evil upon her and say, no, no, not across this sacred channel, our blessed moat, shall the barbarian cross. No! George Russell! Yes, Lewis, you may have struggled. Yes, Lewis, you may be overcoming adversity, but who's been there, consistently placing 4th and 5th with a porcelain complexion and a congenial manner and all sorts of fantastic interactions with fans where he refused to get souvenir balls off of the lawn. That is correct, every single week. The Slim Gentleman himself, again, lad of the week, George Russell.
Wow.
What a good lad. What a good lad.
What a good lad. So I think we need to talk about the George Russell meme that was going viral this week, Spencer. Did you see that?
No, which one?
It was a meme format that was a George Russell is the type of guy blank blank blank. And most of them were like, I'll read some of the top ones. I haven't screened these first, so like hopefully nothing is horrible is about to happen. But
we're taking the Ferrari pit strategy towards our tweet selection.
Yes, 100%. George Russell is the type of guy to still not admit he's in the wrong, even when his team is telling him he's in the wrong. George Russell is the type of guy to slap his knees and go right then when he stands up. George Russell is the type of guy to recite lines from the FIA guidelines on overtaking whilst racing wheel to wheel. George Russell is the type of guy to read the entire terms and conditions before clicking I agree.
Every line.
Yeah, these are all essentially like George Russell is the best lad blank memes. Ryanair even got in on it. They said George Russell is the type of guy who claps when the plane lands.
Which you should do every time if you're flying Ryanair. Let's be fair. You might want to pray. Thank the God of your choice that you made it to the ground.
Clapping is not a reaction enough for what you have just accomplished if your plane has landed safely on Ryanair. So anyways, the George Russell memes were on fire. I think the wider F1 world is catching on to the fact that George Russell is the best lad, the one and only lad, and the best lad. So shout out to George Russell. I mean, he put on quite a show in the last 10 laps. Sergio Perez was trying to snitch him out of third place. He was like, he went off. Hey, he went off track again. Hey, did you guys see turn 6? He was off again. And they're like, the Red Bull pit wall was like, all right, like we'll let him know. Well, thank you.
Yeah, it's quite nice. Yes.
We appreciate it.
I enjoyed that pairing because it pairs the guy who I think is the best technical driver, which is Sergio Perez, versus George Russell, who's also super clean. So naturally it had to come down to nitpicking and manners because neither of them was going to make an egregious mistake. They were just going to be so good that one beating the other was simply a matter of like a nanosecond here and a nanosecond there. I do also like Sergio Perez just completely falling asleep on the virtual safety car.
The restart. What was that?
I know. I have a theory about the way Sergio Perez's brain works, okay? If it's on and the condition is on, then he is the most agile, quickest, fastest man on the planet, right? If it's like green flag, he's on. But the minute he leaves the track, I think he just goes to sleep. I think he's just like an all or nothing dude, right? It was like, oh yeah, I saw green and I went, and he's the best driver in the world. But if he's off, he's the chillest dude in the world. And I think that's probably what happened. He saw the virtual safety car and was like, oh, I can chill. I'm good. That's fine. And then George Russell was like, aha, snuck past him.
So the finish from Mercedes was impressive because this whole season they've struggled a lot on street circuits and circuits where there's a lot of like rough, like the track is rougher or there's debris or whatever, as the Brits call it. And the last few races that have been on these actual like racing circuits, the Mercedes has been a lot faster. But then in qualifying this weekend, Mercedes thought they had put together a package that like their car was finally going to show quicker speeds on this circuit. They thought this circuit would be very suitable to what they had. And they were very disappointed because I think Lewis ended up being 0.9 seconds off of Leclerc in qualifying, which was a pretty big gap. They were expecting something more like 0.3 seconds for like Lewis behind Leclerc or whoever the leader would be, Max. And then lo and behold, they finished 2-3. This is the first time George Russell and Lewis Hamilton have ever been on podium together as Mercedes teammates. So, and we even heard Toto Wolff on the radio talking to George Russell, which I really enjoyed because we don't get a lot of good Toto messages. But he was like, George, keep your head down. You're the best lad. You have the speed to beat Perez. And he was right. And George Russell, the best lad, once again, finishes on the podium. So very happy for Mercedes.
Yeah, thrilled for them. Thrilled to get a Toto spot on the radio. He's not always on the radio, but when he is, it's always a banger. He's the Andre 3000 of guest spots on F1 radio. I also want to congratulate the Silver Fox himself, the meanest old bastard on the track. That's right, Fernando Alonso. Just a dude who this season is in a great spot where he's not supposed to win, but he can make things as difficult as possible for everyone on the track while topping out at a performance level that we might not have expected out of Alpine. It's great. It's absolutely fantastic to watch him just be a thorn in everyone's side, right? At like P7, P8, sometimes P6, sometimes P5, cruising up there. I adore him being as nasty an individual as possible without actually putting people into the wall.
Yeah, and both Alpines finished in the points. And you know who else both drivers of finished in the points? That is a grammatically incorrect sentence.
Right. Gun it.
It was McLaren.
That's right.
Daniel Ricciardo. I'm not sure if you've been following all the buzz around Daniel Ricciardo in the last few weeks, Spencer. And you probably may have covered some of this last weekend with the one and only Chris Whittingham, who's, I guess, the second best lad.
He is the second best. He's a very, lad. I will say this, as the lad appreciator, very good lad. Not George Russell, but a very good lad.
He needs the Better Call Saul world's second best lad mug, like the second best lawyer.
We need to make this for him.
We will make it for him. I will get on that. I'll call someone who will get on that. So anyways, baby Lando Norris finished in 7th. Daniel Ricciardo finished in 9th. There has been quite a stir at McLaren because McLaren had an American IndyCar driver, Colton Herta, race their 2021 McLaren at Portimao, which is in Portugal. Basically, test it out, see how he does in it. And so that was in the news. They also had some sort of other testing with another driver. And so Daniel Ricciardo posted to his Instagram story that he's committed to McLaren. There was a big sit-down interview with Ted Kravitz before the race today where they asked Ricciardo, what's kind of going on? Like, you haven't been very good lately. Haha. Like, how do we ask you politely why you suck? And he was like, he compared driving this car to dancing with a dance partner who's kind of not in sync with you. And basically he keeps blaming it on like his chemistry with the McLaren car. But it is, there's really no explanation for it because this is a different car this year than the one he drove last year, which he also struggled with at McLaren.
Yeah.
And his teammate, who he's been compared to, like every driver is compared to their teammate, has been doing so much better. Your friend Nico Rosberg, who you are an admirer of, said that it's unfair to compare Ricciardo to Norris because Norris might be the best driver of this young generation of Formula One drivers. So it's an unfair standard. But Daniel Ricciardo is someone who has won lots of Formula One races and been that Lando Norris type figure in the past, where many people thought he would be what Max Verstappen is before Max Verstappen came along and became a driving machine robot. And he's also everyone's, most people's favorite drivers. Like, he's very accessible to American fans, especially. So I don't know, Spencer, I'm wondering what you think of all of this, or if you're kind of just happy to see Daniel Ricciardo get some points on the board and have another pretty decent finish considering the season he's having.
I'm happy to see him get one day closer towards becoming the most successful F1 podcaster in the history of the sport. That is what I am happy for. I'm happy to see him get one day closer to a spot on the NASCAR Truck Series. That's where I think his heart belongs, not F1 anymore, because he either needs to take a turn towards the Fernando Alonso elder statesman who enjoys tripping the kids as they come off the playground, or he needs to go ahead and start that podcast empire. It's just him and Draymond, man. Just him, Draymond, immediately off the track, straight to the mic. Do it, Danny. Do it. What are you waiting for? This is your destiny.
Well, if he's going to become a Draymond podcaster, then he has to stay in F1, right? Like you can't be, otherwise he's just JJ Redick, which isn't bad. Like everyone loves JJ Redick. He has one of the most popular NBA podcasts out there, but you got to pick a lane. You're either the guy who's like running into the paddock to pod right after, or you're the guy who's podding from his multi-million-dollar estate in Ibiza while everyone else is racing and you're not.
I would suggest becoming that second person because it involves no work. It involves no work whatsoever, right? You don't have to towel off. It's not sweaty. You don't have to wear a fire suit while you're doing it. Do the thing that requires less work, Danny. I know you feel this, okay? Like, do this. This is where you're headed.
Right. But Spencer, so like, there are people out there who are not wired like you and me, who enjoy the work, who enjoy taking the risks, who want to feel the thrill of being inside one of these cars for 2 hours every weekend. I'm not one of them. I'm with you. I choose the road easiest traveled, as the expression goes. But Daniel Ricciardo seems like he legitimately wants to still racing. And there's also another driver whose future in Formula One seems to be up in the air, and that's Sebastian Vettel. And he also seems like he kind of wants to keep racing. He's like, yeah, this season's been shitty. I'm not doing very well. Like it's, an abject failure where I'm finishing behind Lance Stroll in my Aston Martin, but I like being here. I like being around it. And I guess I can't blame them for wanting to be, one of the best 20 people at doing something in the entire world and all of the perks that come with it.
I mean, there's what you enjoy and there's what you get to do. And if you can combine the two, that's cool. I don't know if Daniel Ricciardo is going to have that choice. Sebastian Vettel may not have that choice. Lance Stroll probably shouldn't have that choice, but you know what? It's a good weekend for the top 1% of 1% and people avoiding the estate tax because Lance Stroll was in the points. Congratulations, Lance. You got points just to prove that the money comes with a little bit of talent, right? He does actually manage to hang on the track there, right? But I don't know. Like, it is the point where you go, do I want to be the 19th best driver out of 20? Because context is everything. Do you want to be, like, particularly with Vettel? Vettel is somebody who has nothing left to prove on the track. Nothing. Ricciardo, I could see having a serious, I need to prove something. I need to show that I belong and can carry a team. That was the thing he was supposed to do. He's supposed to be the kind of guy who could be the one, right? The one spot, and I can carry a team. That's not where he's at McLaren. It's pretty clear he's the two on the McLaren. So do you want to go to a team where you're the one guy and you might finish 9th, you might finish 8th, but do you want to go to a team that's going to do that? Is there a team that's going to give you that offer? Because McLaren might be the best you could do at that point. I don't know. Like if you're taking it seriously, I think Ricciardo's future is off the track. I think that could be a lot more lucrative and satisfying for him. And if you want to experience the thrill of being a race car driver, I don't know, man. Move to LA and drive in traffic. That can be as thrilling as well.
That's thrilling in the worst ways. But yeah, so his contract is up at the end of next season. Colton Herta, and I'm probably saying his name wrong, his contract with IndyCar, I believe, is also up at the end of next season. So there's some synergistic timing there. But does McLaren want to wait? I know I've heard so many Formula One commentators be like, well, these contracts don't really mean anything. You can kind of tear them up and decide that they mean whatever you want them to mean. And I'm like, I don't understand how that works. How do contracts not mean things? I guess in Formula One, you can kind of come to these quote unquote gentlemen's agreements if things aren't going well and just decide, you know what, Danny, we've had a fun time here. We have a really exciting young driver. We think we can do better with our number 2 driver. And we also want an American because guess what? Formula One now is heavily invested in America. We're going to have 3 races there in 2023. Having an American driver would be great for everyone.
This goes against my theory that we already have an American driver and it's Daniel Ricciardo. So maybe the pitch is to say we need a second American driver. Oh, okay. Yeah, got that.
Oh, well, now I'm like, what if we put both of them on the same team? Well, I can't do that.
You know,
Too much chaos.
if we did that, but with an extremely un-American, like just the least American race team, like Ferrari, that'd be amazing,
That would be amazing.
right? I say least American race team because Ferrari believes in, having nice amenities in your workspace and taking breaks and looking pretty. These are all things that Americans do not value when it comes to performance.
And espresso. No
and
drip coffee there.
A lot of espresso, a lot of team themed recreation. We all jog the track together afterwards, right? So we're going to take some questions from the comments. Thank you all for tuning in and for barking back at us as if you were Charles Leclerc on the radio, screaming back into the void that is this show. First, how much would you give to hear Toto tell George Russell, "We're going with Plan B, as in best lad"? I'd give a pretty good amount. I'd pay $150 for that.
I was gonna say $200. We're actually
200. Okay, yeah, no, we're in the same spot.
But no, I wouldn't pay more than $200 because your impression was so close that I can just close my eyes and pretend it was coming out of Toto's mouth.
I would also give serious money to hear him say, "You are the best boy. You're such a good boy."
We can probably find out the actual answer to this, but how many plans does each team have going into a race? Like, does Ferrari ever get to plan Q?
Oh no, because none of them are going to go right. Like they're like the race, they will have disastered themselves out of the race by Plan F at latest.
Well, Plan F is the one they went with, which is Plan fuck everything up.
Plan D for disaster. Yes, that's. I don't think they get further than Plan D, to be honest. Yeah, I don't think the teams have more than 3 plans. And frankly, in life, if you have more than 3 plans, you haven't made a plan. You haven't committed.
At some point there's diminishing returns too. Because if I'm a driver and I'm like, oh shit, which one was E again? Am I supposed to? I can't. Am I saving my tires on this one?
Nobody I don't think that's LOL. Drivers can't think that far, right? No, nobody can. Nobody nobody has more than 3 plans.
Too many plans.
Yeah. Next, we have which driver smells best after a race? Which driver?
I mean, probably Nicholas Latifi because he's barely sweating. He's just kind of chilling in the back. He's going for a smoke break during the pit stops. He's just like, I'm good back here, you guys. Like, I don't know if you noticed, Spencer, at one point, I think he went off track today, and it was at a critical moment for all of the 3 teams battling first, second, through fifth. And I was like, ooh, Latifi, so close to screwing this up for everyone once again with the safety car. But then he kind of skirted back on it, and I was like, okay, we're good.
Oh, I know it's Lewis because Lewis has the most expensive cologne. Lewis, Lewis probably has some sort of cologne that's made in somewhere deep in the Alps in a cave with,
Lewis just secretes gold bars.
Yeah, he had the essence of an orchid. And
pearls come out of his pores.
Yeah, the essence of an orchid that is kept in a secret greenhouse and hasn't seen actual sunlight for 300 years. He probably smells like that. So I'm going to go ahead and say Lewis.
Should we maybe be mean and say who probably smells the worst?
Vettel. You know why? He doesn't care.
The beard?
No, it's this. You know how much? Think about this. He has the beard and his hair, and there's a lot of shag. And you know how hunting hounds have ears and stuff, so they can pick up all of the scent off the ground.
I actually didn't know that. But
no, that's why they have such pendulous skin and stuff, is so that they can stir up all the scent molecules. It's just an advantage. That's basically Vettel is an air filter, like a human air filter. He's just got all of this stuff. And I will tell you from experience that if you walk through something smelling really good, you're going to smell good with the beard. And if you walk through something smelling really bad, you need to go shower. So I'm just going to go ahead and say Vettel.
Do we think the beard is affecting his downforce?
Yeah. A little bit.
I think he actually shaved his beard before this race.
Did he? Okay, good.
There was a segment with him and one of the Sky presenters. I can't remember which one before the race, and he was clean shaven.
Well, as you can see, if you do have the beard and you want maximum downforce, it needs to be like a spoiler. You need to make sure that it's pointed somewhat so that it can go there. He had the rough shag, so that's not gonna help.
He should shave a grill into his beard.
Absolutely. No, the aerodynamic beard. Get the people Aston Martin on this.
Just don't ask Ferrari for advice on how to
No,
design
no,
your beer.
they'll ask you to come over and take a shave in the middle of the race, right? It's a good time. Get over here. It's fine. Will Haas bounce back next week after? Yes, because the Haas gang don't stop. That's it. I mean, like a little bit of bad luck for Haas. The Renaissance came to a brief hiccup today, but you know what? Sometimes when you're climbing a mountain, you got to go down for a bit. Then you know the climb starts again. All right, that's where Gunther is. He's got his sticks out. He's got his fancy European hiking boots. He's headed to the top.
I agree with that. I have nothing further to add on Haas.
We also have, is Ferrari pitting Carlos for his penalty the equivalent of Lane Kiffin sending in his kicker out for a 76-yard field goal? No, because that was intentional. Like Lane knew that was funny. Ferrari's just pushing buttons randomly, Eric. That's what's happening here.
I'm trying to think of a good football equivalent to this.
Oh, timeouts. This is just like somebody who doesn't know how to manage timeouts.
Clock management, right? That's what I was thinking too. This is like icing your own kicker.
This is like, do you know who's running pit strategy for Ferrari? Mike McCarthy. Mike McCarthy or Les Miles. That's who's running pit strategy.
Andy Reid from 6 years ago.
Yes, yeah, like pre-success, pre-Super Bowl,
Reid.
pre-Mahomes, Andy Reid, right? Like geniuses who can't get out of their own way or count to 3. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think them calling him into pit while he was overtaking Perez is icing your own kicker after they already made the field goal from 55 yards to win the game. And then they go back out and have to do it again and they miss the second time.
Jessica, I think this next question is really interesting. Like it's sort of, there's some ha-ha in here, but it's a very interesting question. If they made F1 drivers spend a weekend doing small town dirt track racing in the American South, would that make for a good Netflix episode? Yes, obviously. Yeah. I do think it would. But it also, it answers a question that to me is fascinating, which is when you see a driver, what am I looking at? What kind of person am I looking at? Remember when prior to the Miami GP, Red Bull took Yuki Tsunoda and took Max Verstappen out in swamp buggies. And Yuki thrashed everybody. Turns out Yuki's a great swamp buggy driver, which a joy, by the way, to say. Yuki Tsunoda is a great swamp buggy driver. That's a sentence I didn't think I'd get to say in life. But it also begs the question, who's just the best driver if you put them in anything? Because this is a Mercedes argument we've had, which is, is it that the car is really bad or that you're not great at driving a bad car and you're just too used to the good stuff to get used to like a shit box, in the words of Toto Wolff.
Right.
I would love to see what people would do with sprint cars on dirt tracks. That would be fascinating to me because I think you'd see some drivers and it would change your opinion. You'd go, oh no, that guy, like Sergio Perez. I think Sergio Perez is one of those guys, and Yuki. I think if you just put them in anything, they're going to be competitive.
I think that's a really good question. I also think, Spencer, as our like Southeast correspondent, what state would we want to drop all these guys in and just plop them down in? And what would make for the best episode?
North Carolina. North Carolina. If we were talking like dirt tracks, cradle of NASCAR, that's what I want to see, right? Either that or like Kentucky. But you want one of those two.
Well, that brings us actually to another question, which is which team principal has the best barbecue? Are we asking which team principal would, if we ate them, taste the best as barbecue, or which one like could make the best barbecue?
I'm happy to answer both, but in terms of making, I'm going to go with somebody who I know is now working on learning how to cook slow and low, has the resources, and is a technician who will hire enough people to eventually slow cook and create a masterpiece. I'm going to go Toto, because right now that's kind of what Mercedes is doing. Mercedes, not on the stir fry plan. This is definitely a brisket. We are going low and slow with it, and it's probably going to be at its best at the end of the process this season.
Now, if the question is like which one throws the best barbecue, is Toto still your answer? Because I think we can rule out Christian Horner. Like his barbecue would be just so sterilized. It's just so posh. We would be using like bamboo silverware to eat ribs. It would not be, I don't think it would be very fun.
No one's ever decided, hey, I want to have a great party. Let's go to the Cotswolds. That's not That's just not happening. So I would go ahead and agree with that. He's been rich too long. I don't think, and also I don't think he has sort of any like party animal in him. I've seen Toto Wolff stage dive. I know he can throw a good party, but I'm gonna say, if you want the most laid back classic summer barbecue, it's gonna be hard to argue against Gunther Steiner. A man who cusses that much at work, it's the inverse. When he gets home, shit's good.
He's a great time.
Tranquilo, buddy. Like, just, it's cool, right? Good family environment, likes to be outside, obviously. I'm going to go that.
I was just gonna say Mike Crack.
Mike. Well, that means we get to say, hey, you ever been to a Mike Crack party? Mike Crack parties are insane.
Oh, Spencer, it was a fun race recap. Sans Ferrari's problems. Thoughts and prayers to Charles Leclerc this week. Excited to see what his temperament will be like next week, if he comes back to us with a full arm sleeve or not, and maybe some nostril piercings. But thoughts and prayers to Charles. Do you have any wrap up thoughts for us on the French Grand Prix?
One, we got an interesting French Grand Prix, and we should be happy for that, because that's
Yes.
not always the case with these races. Two, I just want to take that little Monegasque man and just hug him. Just carry him around for a day or two and be like, it's going to be okay, buddy.
Fault. It's not your fault.
It's not your fault, man. It's not. Well, Christian Horner is just texting him, it is your fault.
It's actually your
Yeah.
fault. Sayonara.
Au revoir.